Okay, so this is video 5 of week 2 of bidding and contracts. We're going to go with our yearly budget calculations. And so you may look at this. This is the form that's going to be on your online classroom. Then we have another form that it'll say landscape only. It's a worksheet that's very similar. And then you will have it's straight out of your text from page 533 to 547, and it shows you step by step how to do your budget. Now, you may not even know where to start. So where I would suggest that you start is figure out your company profile. You have however many crews you want. So I'd say a minimum of 1 4-person crew. So if you have a company that has 2 crews or 3 crews, it's bigger, that's fine. But start with a minimum of a 1-crew company and go from there. You know, do it however you want, but don't go any smaller than 1 crew. You're not going to have a 1-person company that's going to be able to bid on this job that we're going to do. So, so do your company profile. The ratios that we have in the book, there are some really good ratios on page 508, which can help you figure out, say, what's your total sales? That's your total revenue. It's gross money coming in. Gross meaning no expenses have been taken out. It's the what you put on your invoice. So your total invoices for the year. And so what they're saying, and you're going to need to figure out your man hours per year per employee. So, you know, working 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year, or 52 weeks a year is 2080, so 2080. But you're going to have holidays, you're going to have weather days, you're going to have downtime, you know, where maybe everybody has to clean equipment or clean the work yard, or you're in between jobs, you know, scheduling. You know, you finish one job at noon and you're not going to start one at 1 o'clock. You know, you're going to go back and have some downtime. So the man hours per year, they actually have listed in here as 1,700 to 2,100. Well, if it's 2,100 and you've still got downtime, you've got a lot of people working overhead. So figure out how many man hours per year each employee works. So your field hours, not your total hours. And you're going to have to figure downtime as well. So you may have someone working 2,000 hours a year, but you know, 200 of those might be downtime. So you're going to need to be able to distinguish between the two, because they'll go in 2 different categories as far as whether or not they're generating revenue or being overhead. So man hours per year, field hours per year. One of the ratios is that per field hour or per man hour, you can generate $50 to $75 of revenue. Okay, that's a field hour. That's not just a downtime man hour. Or per employee, per man year, 100 to 125,000. So say you've got 4 employees that are productive field employees. For each one of those, you're going to generate $100 to $125,000, and that's in residential landscape installation. That's invoice price. Okay, so that way you can put that in your sales and revenue, which is the very first line on the annual budget. Cost of goods sold, you can look through. There are some. I'd use a ratio. Go to your ratio appendix that we talked about in the last video, right in that 500, let me find the page, find the page again, I lost it, industry benchmarks, 508 to 509. Look in that, and cost of goods sold per total sales. You can find some ratios you can use. You don't have to come up with this all on your own. You can use your ratios for that. Your direct labor, use what you're paying your employees. So you know you have already figured out how many man hours per year. Put the wage on that, and that's your direct labor cost. Your labor burden, you can use, there's some resources in your book on how to figure labor burden. So if you are offering benefits to your employees, look and see how they define it. It's usually 25% to 30%. If you're not offering benefits, take it lower. If you know you're going to offer good benefits, be on the high side. Subcontractors, equipment, rental equipment, look at your ratios a little bit and just go ahead and use those. On the general, you can kind of skip the gross profit margin for now. On the general, because that'll be a backside calculation. We'll figure that from all the totals and back into that. On the general and administrative overhead and indirect costs, you have a worksheet for that. That's going to be on that is on the online classroom, or it will be by the time you hear this. And so go through that worksheet and just put a number on it to your best of your ability. You know what your telephone bill is. If you're not sure what commercial property lease is for, look up some commercial lease rates. You know, do the best you can to get an idea of what your general and administrative overhead may be. And when you look at that, when you look at that ratio, then you'll see by the amount of sales that you can generate, say with one crew, you may not be generating enough to pay for, you know, a good ratio of overhead. You may have to add a second crew. You may find that from what you figured for your overhead, one 4-person crew can generate enough to bring in the money to support that size business. So this is how we start to see whether or not your goals will fit the costs and how that translates to these different costs that are outlined in the bid. So your assignment for the third week will be to complete an annual budget for your company and to either bring it to class next week or put it in the Dropbox. So if there are questions along the way, get in touch with me, send me an email, give me a call. And some of those are don't worry about making a mistake. Get a draft of this, and then if we have to change it to right size your business a little bit, or to look at maybe some of your costs that may be out of line and there's some other way to approach it. But the budget needs to be done before we can actually do a bid. So next week in week 3, we want to take a look at our budgets. We want to make adjustments where needed, and then start measuring for material quantities and labor quantities in your first installation bid. So your resources are online in the content section. Week 2, just let me know where you're going to be next week, whether you're going to be in class or whether you're going to be online. And let me know if you have any questions. So thank you very much.